everybody, and welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast, episode number 6. We are the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former radio host, and several podcasters shooting the breeze talking UCF Sports. We're a little short this week on the couple of broadcasters or podcasters or whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, Alan was not able to make it. I think he was so heartbroken by this week's results that he just decided to sit this one out. So no popping collars from Alan and no popping collars from any of us this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring our resident UCF National Champion to the stage. Tre Yells, welcome to the show, Tre.
What's up? What's up? How you doing?
Could be better.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. This is not quite as bad as the 2015 year, but Josh Lazar, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us this week.
Not a problem. Thank you. And I refuse to pop a collar until we get another win. But I will tell you that you referenced 2015 and it's not that bad, but Wagner is in the back of my head. Like, was it Wagner? Was it Furman? I forgot. Yeah. Furman. That was it. If apologies to Wagner and Furman. That is, again, not that bad. And actually, it's interesting.
You know who was on that team?
Listen. It might be that bad.
What? Okay. Well,
we were 5 weeks in the season. We kind of knew what was going on. We knew what we were headed. We weren't. Yeah. Expectations make a lot of different situations, a heartbreak, or so
we'll talk about that this week too.
We might need to get your locker room prowess and thoughts on the locker room and what impacts when you start losing this way and how the team can overcome it. So I think that might be a good way for you to kind of share some knowledge, dropping knowledge from behind the scenes, as well as a certain, maybe during the text talk segment, we'll talk a little bit about some of those text threads you're on. So super excited about that. Listen, guys, it was a rough one. It was a great one. It was the best of times and then the worst of times.
Yeah.
I don't know how many cliches I can stick in there, but honestly, we played 3 solid quarters of football and the wheels fell off. There's no hiding it. There's no shame. There's not hiding from it. It happened. I mean, I don't know how it happened. We all saw it happen. It was like a train wreck. But it happened. It just sucks that it was on our Big 12 opener, right? A Big 12 home opener. Like, of all games for something like this to happen and be like our first home game in the Big 12. And, we give up, 29 points in the fourth quarter. Now, not all of them were on the defense, right? Okay. You can't say that. But so many decisions. There was bad plays combined with poor decisions, both from the players, whether it be at the QB position or the coaching staff. I mean, the coaching staff, just some real head scratchers again this week. It feels like this is going to be Gus Malzahn ball. We got the script. We know what's working, and then we're going to do something completely opposite, which ends up crashing and burning. So that without actually going into the review, let's go ahead and start with our text talk. I'm going to start with Tre Yells. Why don't you give us our 3, since we're missing Alan this week. So each of you will pick an extra one. And by the way, it's 26 points in the fourth. All right, go ahead, Tre.
Yeah, so I'll start off with a little bit of humor. So we were all worried about, is it going to rain? What's the issues? Blah, blah, blah. That was the big thing we were trying to figure out. Especially wearing white, that's just bad combo. So then Josh is like, should I wear a bathing suit to the game? I got the kids' pool party, and the weather instincts tell me that'd be a good idea. Roger comes back, you wear a high side bikini if you want, no judgment. However, I don't think they're gonna let you in with a G-string. Right there, man. I was laughing for probably 30 minutes. going into the game with my guys. Those are my two funny ones. So and again,
Did you share that with the group you were with? You should.
I did. I was back a little bit of backstory. I was in the academic center, which is kind of where we were at before the game. And I just told them, I'm like, listen, I know some of them, they know some of us. So, I was laughing we were laughing for a good 20, 30 minutes just about it. And yeah, man, again, it's a good time. And I think, that's why I love coming to the games personally. I love coming back to, see the people that I haven't seen in so long, especially this past year this past game with the 2013 team. I haven't seen some of those guys in forever. So again, just, sharing those funny moments with them that we also, with us three, kind of that was probably the highlight of my day, to say the least.
Great. Oh man.
All right, so that's one. Tre, did you have any others?
Oh, I thought that was my two. Those were my two.
Because it was a chain. It was a couple.
Yeah, it was a couple of them.
All right.
The other ones, listen. I'm not getting into it.
We don't want to talk about it. Okay. All right, Josh Lazar, what do you think?
So a couple things to yes and Tre here. So yes, I did go in a bathing suit, although not a singlet or anything like that, because I would not be allowed in the game. But yeah, I did, and it didn't rain
at all.
And the cloud cover was pretty. It lightly misted, but not even enough to you have to think about it to recognize it.
Yeah.
And the sun was covered on our side. I sit in the cabana. On that side, the sun was out. Not a lot either. So I barely had to do any sunscreen. That was pretty solid.
Good.
So answer was yes. I did go in a bathing suit that was worthless because it didn't rain. So I kind of in that light, or a little bit in that light, we were watching the game, and it wasn't the Kansas State we just can't stop them part until later in the game, right?
Yeah.
But it just seemed like we were playing, but we could never get that defensive touchdown or that defensive stand that we were talking about, that Tre was talking about last game, right? We're going to get one.
Well, we did get the defensive touchdown.
You're moving the punchline.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So,
I didn't realize you were still talking about K-State. I'm sorry. That's
no. So I'm saying, in the text talk, I was like, and now we can't even get the ball back. And it was literally the play before Henderson pulls the ball out of the runner's hands and runs it back for the TD, and my comma as well, ... I think we got the ball back, smiley face. So that was a very fun part of it. And this happened minutes from that happening. And my last one, since we're doing three, I can't pick one up for Tre because all the other ones are very downers, as you might tell. Was look at this poop emoji street corn. So in the cabana, there's lots of good food, right? There's the second level and the first level. So I went down to the first level openly because I think the men's restroom on the second level all the way to the edge is open and free often. So I have, it's way far from my seat, but that's where I go to usually find a stall quickly. Right before there is this stand with nachos and other things, and said street corn. I'm like, great, I love street corn. And it was $9 for the street corn. Okay,
so hold on. Was this next to the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay, so that was your first clue, right?
If you eat corn and then you go right,
you're headed right for the bathroom.
Right. That's actually not the problem with it. Nor was the $5 for the soda or whatever it was. It's when I went around the corner and they take the lid off to where the corn is, and it's creamed corn. And I don't know if you've been to any street fair or had street corn anywhere else. It's not cream corn. It's not even close. So when they lifted it off, and they are scraping this thing trying to get as much out of it because there was not a lot left in this bowl that might be literally about this size, maybe a 6-inch round, not maybe. I'm like, oh crap! What is this? and they put the cotija and the crema and the cilantro and all that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to eat it. I took a picture of it too, and it looked, it wasn't even passable, but I was hungry, so I ate it. But I mean,
it looked pretty terrible.
I wish we would have, like, this is when we load up all the media and we stream it in and we gross you out. Well, maybe next time. But yeah, just caveat, I would have went to Huey Magoo's, but the line was out the door. Like, the line was long. I'm like, nah, it's good, but not that good. I want to go back and watch this game. Little did I know I should have probably just stayed down there the rest of them.
Oh yeah, yes, I think that might have been a smart move, to be honest. So I don't know, maybe we'll make a picture. So Josh, we'll show the picture later, but Josh actually started creating some new content for us. He was out on the street talking to people. He actually hit up some Baylor fans before the kickoff and was asking them what their score predictions were. Of course, they picked Baylor. I don't think
not all.
Not all of them, but
now I'm leading the punch. Great.
Yes, exactly. So it turns out that the older gentleman that you had, he was the closest to being, but they seem to be great fans, and we'll start posting those. I just don't know if it's appropriate this week to start posting it, but we are starting to create content, so look out for our YouTube shorts because we'll start dropping some stuff on there as well. But great job, Josh Lazar. All right, so now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, had some humor, had some reality, and now we're here. So for this week, I'm going to call this our bear droppings review, because what we saw in the fourth quarter was, UCF football had the squirts. So we'll just leave it at that. But let's talk about it. What went wrong and what went right? So first part of the game went really, really well. We had 6 plays and 29 yards. We only had the ball for 6 minutes. 6 minutes in the first half. So that's great, and it's bad at the same time, right? Yeah. Because if you've got, as Tre can tell you, when your offense scores very quickly, it leaves the defense out on the field. And I think that caught, along with several injuries that nobody's really talking about that happened during the game, really kind of left us out to dry. But the defense was playing well. The offense was playing well. We were getting downhill. We had lots of pressures. Tremont Morris-Brash, I think, had 3 sacks. So everything that you wanted from our defense was happening in the first half. Second half hits. We get the ball back. We've got the lead. We march down the field on a 5-minute drive.
7.
Was it 7? Okay, 7-minute drive. And so that was exactly what we wanted to do, right? Eat up clock and march down the field and add to our lead. And then, we get to the end of the third quarter and all of a sudden it's 35-10 and we realize we haven't scored again. And then we get to the fourth quarter and we completely lose our minds. The coaching staff lost their minds. The quarterback lost their minds. RJ Harvey lost his line of sight on the ball. It was like a house of cards. Defensively, I think Baylor definitely made some adjustments defensively. We lost our starting center in the first part of the game, first part of the half, third quarter. So that didn't help matters. So they were getting more pressure. And then on top of that, though, it goes back to what we've been talking about this whole time, right? Which is, what are we doing in our zone? Our linebackers are completely lost. That's how teams are beating us. And they're beating us consistently by doing that. And we, at least this week, when we're in our zone, we're at least aware of where the sticks were and the line to gain for the first down, right?
Yeah.
So they were sticking there, but they were late on their breaks. They were late on everything, getting to, once that person started coming through the middle of the field, they were 2 steps too late. And it was consistent. So that tells me that our linebackers are not recognizing the play and processing it mentally as fast as they should be.
Yeah.
Because, granted, when you're watching it on TV, you can see exactly who they're going to line up to do that. Another thing that went wrong, that pick play, that was not a pick play.
Wasn't. Okay.
It was set up as a pick play.
Okay.
But our receiver did not touch the guy. And the defender put hands on him.
Yeah.
That should not have been called against us, and that would have been another touchdown. Again, another opportunity.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
you were
Josh.
on defense. I was thinking about that pick play when they curl around the ref and use the ref as a that got hit in the third quarter or early fourth too. I'm like, we just can't. I know it's hard to defend and you want to go right through the ref, but you're not going to. But I was thinking the other way. But no, 100%. Like you can see
there's too much space. That's the problem. Yeah. It's not necessarily that. It's too much space. They're not recognizing the play or where it's going fast enough. Listen, if you're in the zone, you've got your cornerbacks have got their guys, and you know who they're going to have. That means as a linebacker, you've got, depending on what the formation looks like, you've got a one person that you should be keying in on and watching what they do with the other linebacker and the safety help, right? The linebackers should be in the middle of the field. They should be able to recognize who that person is that they're supposed to be keying on and break towards that person. So, yes, offensively, Baylor was doing some things to kind of some trickeration. If you noticed how they were setting up those plays, but at the same time, you know where they're going. You can't leave that much distance in the zone. They were stretching the zone with the cornerbacks to get them out. So you got go routes or whatever you're going to do, right? So you're stretching the zone and opening it up underneath. Exactly. And so the linebackers were too deep and then they couldn't react fast enough. They were 2 steps too slow. And specifically, and I'll say this, Cam Moore is a freshman. He was in position more than Yates was or Johnson. Yep. So, it's not just what they were doing, but who they were doing it to. So that linebacker, I said at the beginning of the season, my concern was linebacker. And it makes it even worse when we have other linebackers like JJ and Bethune that are playing at other teams that could be play. If we had those linebackers, this defense would be really, really, really stout.
Night and day different.
Yeah. Linebackers are a linchpin if you're playing a zone defense. You have to have them. The thing is we're not switching up. We're playing zone. Like, I don't know how many plays they're calling out of that, but we're playing zone. I would say probably 30 to 40% of our plays at least, right? And I know we want to get after the quarterback, right? Yeah. It's a good and actually, I'd say that number is higher. But at some point, you can't rely on that, especially if you've had your defense out there that long, which brings us back to the offense, right? Offensively, what are we doing? 20 seconds, we got 20 seconds left on the clock, we're snapping the ball, right? And then, when we are moving the ball, it's 3 and outs with some questionable calls. Timmy was off. He was missing. He was not seeing the wide open receivers.
Yeah.
Right. There were times. Listen, if you're throwing in a double coverage, that means somebody else is open, wide open. Right.
Yeah.
And this was Javon Baker's game. Kobe Hudson didn't really make much noise. He had 2 targets this game.
I think they were in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And he had one early.
They're not targets. I think his first catch came that last drive.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, which to me,
and tight end play. Holler was making a difference. Let's feed Holler some more. I mean, if that's what we're going to get, and again, this was Holler's first game back. If that's what we're going to get on matchups, great. We also used the other freshman. I can't think of his name right now. Tight end Pittman. Yeah. Pittman's looking great. He's got 13 catches for the year. The man has hands. He's got a little wiggle. He's got some speed. So he's going to be our pass catching tight end going forward, but Holler can still catch the ball. Yeah. Last year we had the Holy Holler, and all of that other stuff. But let's, offensively, we've got to rethink this. And then, it just drives me nuts. And I know people are going to be like, because I know that Timmy was hobbled a little bit coming off of the field. So he in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, he was gimping a little bit, right? So I know that's probably why we set up that that Wildcat on the 30 that Harvey fumbled. But I mean, the man can stand out there and just hand the ball to somebody. You set it up for a field goal if you need to. We have good running backs. We have good, we're missing McDonald. He's our ground and pound guy to get the Bowser yards that we were getting in years past because he's injured. But, at the same time, you've got to be able to pick some of that stuff up. And on a 30-yard line, I'm not running a Wildcat. And I get it. They have their reasons. They have a lot of faith in it. Himshaw came out on his interview and he said that, he's a former quarterback and I trust him. And he's like, he makes that 99% of the time. Yeah. Well, that 1% bit us. So,
and I think, just speaking to that, I'm not necessarily mad at the outcome of the play. Again, that's probably a less than 1% chance that you fumble it and they take it back for a touchdown. Like, we could run that play probably 1,000 times, and one time is when that happens.
Yeah.
My issue with it, again, is based off of the motion, they were just running read option. They weren't running, the Wildcat where they run the jet sweep. They were running a read option where you can kind of pull, like RJ's making a read like a quarterback. Now, granted, he played quarterback, in high school. I think he was recruited out of the quarterback. But it's just let the guys that catch handoffs every day do it. If you're going to run a read option, let the guys that do that every day make that play. Don't make it more difficult by putting a running back there. Like,
well, have we done anything else but run it between the tackles with RJ Harvey every time we run that?
Oh, no.
I don't think we have.
I've said it. Anytime you do the jet motion with it, when it's like Johnny Richardson or the kid that transferred from Florida, I'm forgetting his name, DeMarcus Bowman. When they come in motion, they don't touch the ball. I wouldn't even acknowledge, if I was playing defense, I might even acknowledge the jet man because we will not pitch it to the jet man. It's just eye candy to run power, to run counter, to run inside zone at the middle. That's it. They don't run outside with it. So it's pointless, really. But that's my only problem with it is if you're going to run read option, put Timmy in. And like you said, he might have been hobbled. Put Dylan Riskin. He'll catch the ball, give the read option, and go. Because they do it all day, every day. That's not something RJ's not taking shotgun snaps 100 times a day at practice. They might do it for a period. He might do it for one period out of the day, maybe once or twice a week. It's just the reps behind it. And again, like I said, we do that 1,000 times. He probably runs it normal, and nobody's having an issue.
Yeah.
But
Himshaw also said that what happened with that was Harvey was confused because the two people that were in the backfield with him were not doing what they were supposed to do. He took his eyes off because he was trying to figure out what they were doing and didn't look the ball in. He thought he had it. I mean, it went right into his hands and he just fumbled it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's that's where I have the gripes. And that's where it comes from. Don't make it more difficult than what you have to do, and that's the same thing, going back that comes to my mind is the bowl game versus Duke. If you're going to throw a pass to anybody, why would you I get the trickery of throwing it to the running back. Why would you use a running back to throw a pass to the quarterback? To me, that doesn't make sense when you have amazing wide receivers, when you have good tight ends. You're making it more it's you don't want to outthink the room that much. You want to trick them. That's the point of the trick play, but you don't want to be to the point where, you want to, we're going to throw it to the quarterback because nobody's going to do that. I think that's where I have my issues with it.
Well, on third downs too. I mean, the third down completion percentage by Baylor was ridiculous. I think it was 10 of 17 or something like that. You're going to win a lot of football games if you're above 50%.
You can win on third down, for sure.
Yeah. On average, third downs, you're going to go about 35 to 38%. If you got 20% above 50, that, we talked a lot about that last year.
Yeah.
Josh, did you have anything to kind of start the recap with? I have some interesting thoughts as well. So
yeah,
go ahead.
so we don't give up 2-point conversions. We're not talking about this. We don't fumble. We're not talking. And a return for a touchdown. We're not talking about this. We
don't have a field goal blocked.
We don't have a field goal blocked. We're not
because
talking about
we don't have our starting snapper in, right? Because he got injured.
Right, we hit a ridiculous. At the end of the day, Boomer hits a ridiculous field goal. We're not having this conversation. The amount of things that had to go wrong for this to happen are. I'm not. I wrote down once in a life. I thought once in a lifetime. I wrote down once in a lifetime. It might be once in a lifetime or darn near close.
Yep, agreed. I don't think. I think if you were to put us in the exact same situation again, we would not lose this game. No. I think it was the perfect storm of unluck.
Yeah, and I think there's yes, but you've seen a little bit of a trend depending on personnel, and that leads me to a bunch of other stuff. I don't know if we're going to go that deep, but you talked about Holler's amazing catch, but why did we need it? We talk about Boomer's last field goal to win it, but why did we need it? We talk about we can keep going back and back and back. Why does it seem that this team just has in tougher games and to be fair, that Cows game shouldn't have been tougher. In tougher games, why is it taking so much? And I think I know some of the reasons why, but there's and we have some in the thoughts we might be talking about, but it just seems like that this was a game that should have been like, oh, we killed the spread. And it went from that to like, what is going on and why can't they just get one or two first downs, run the ball, don't turn it over, run the clock to 1 second, and go home. Like what is going on? And there's so many different pieces.
Let me throw this goes along with what you're saying. Yeah. UCF had more yards, a better yard per play, better yards per completion. Obviously, we lost the time of possession, although they picked up a lot of that in the second half because we only had 6 minutes in the first half, right?
Yeah.
Lost the turnover battle. And in spite of all of that, we had less first downs and struggled on third downs. Now, again, we were screaming last year, right, for higher yards per play and higher yards per catch. We actually lead. We're in the top 5 of the NCAA for that.
Yep.
Right. And lead the Big 12. We're getting those big plays that we're used to from Tre's years. Those big pop 60-yard plays, which is awesome, right? However,
what Roger? What have I told you wins football games?
Defense.
You have to be great in the red zone. Great on third down on both sides.
Yeah,
you can have as many chunk plays and all of that you want. If you can't if you can't get off the field on third down, they're just going to eat away at the clock. That's really what we've seen these 2 Big 12 games. Yeah. They just
we saw that with K-State. We didn't see that so much with Baylor because Baylor had to play from behind.
But once they caught up, those last few drives, they were just running the football.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're leaning on us. Now, granted, again, I was on the side of being tired on defense because your offense is so explosive.
Yeah.
But when you get to that point of this is the style of football that we're going to see for the rest of our time in this big time football. When you get to these points,
I will say this, we were doing that in the third quarter. Like we started that way the third quarter.
Yep.
The challenge was we just turned the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether it be an interception, whether it be fumbling, drive all the way to the 30-yard line, and then fumble the football for a scoop and score. We were doing that and we were trying to do that, but then also we were doing hurry up. It's like, I know
that's conflicting.
Yeah. And I know we do better. Usually if you watch our hurry up offense, when we're running hurry up, when they find something they like, we can score. Yeah. It seems like the team's more in rhythm when we're doing that than when we're not. I don't know. I would, everything that we were doing, run the clock. Yeah, okay, look, if you're doing hurry up, fine. Break the huddle at the 10-second mark. You know, don't break the huddle with 25, 30 seconds left on the clock and then just sit there and 20 goes down.
Yeah, but that's, to me, that's winning football. Like,
it's fundamentals.
You can be the most explosive team, score as fast as you want. When you need to chew 6 minutes off the clock, can you not only as players do it, execute it, but as coaches, can you call a game plan to chew 6 minutes off the clock? Can you talk to your quarterback, hey, do not snap the ball until there's 3 seconds left on the play clock? Because we can see it on the field. They have it. So it's those things that you also have to help, because Timmy's a young guy. Timmy's not, he played at USF, but this is his first big time-ish kind of football, with heavy circumstances on the line, as you see. You have, as a coach, even as a player, you have to calm him down. As you saw after we talked about it. After that first drive in the third quarter, he kind of went off the rails. Somebody has to reel him in. You cannot have a quarterback go off the rails, not in the sense that he was just playing crazy. It's just, it looked night and day different from, it looked under control, knew where he was going with the football, playing smart, to playing backyard football like he was at home.
Well, and that's the difference between JRP.
Yep.
And
that's huge. Yeah, and that's my thing, where when you know that the quarterback, that's the difference, because it's experience. The coaches have to step in on that. They have to talk to him.
Well, it's not just experience, but the ability to rally. So one thing that JRP has always done, and I think people thought it might have been disingenuous last year, but all the stuff he's done since then, it's kind of showed, no, that's just who he is. Yeah. You need your guy who's your quarterback not to get down on himself. What I see is Timmy starting to slip away. I think he's feeling the pressure. I think he knew it was his opportunity in these 2 games to show, hey, I've got 2 years left. I could be the starting quarterback for UCF football.
Yep.
And I think he's feeling the pressure. I'm watching him do that. It doesn't help when he's running off the field, and I saw this happen, and Gus is chewing his ear off. Timmy doesn't feel to me like he's the guy who needs that. He's the guy who needs to be picked up. I think the mental game for him is that, and I think all that does is add pressure to him, which is not what he needs. He needs a calm hand. That's what we had in JRP. He would tell all the guys, hey, let's calm down. We got this, blah, blah, blah. And you know what else JRP does is he runs the ball when it's open. Yes. Now, I know that Timmy can do it because he did it. That was what he used to do. But Timmy's being told, hey, be a pocket passer, right? And he's doing more of that now, but it's making him second guess his instinct when you only need 2 or 3 yards.
That's again, like you're saying, that's when you're fighting your instinct. It's so tough as a football player to play, because that's not who Timmy is. Timmy is if I don't see it immediately, I'm going to rely on my God-given abilities. That's completely fine. Do they want him to play in the pocket? Yes, because that's the structure of the offense. But you never.
And he did that. He did that the first half.
Yeah, and then that's what's so crazy, because he has shown the ability to do it. I mean, the first half he played amazing from the pocket. He made amazing throws. He made amazing decisions, and I think that's what I don't understand is just how can it go so 180 in the instant. Like, it wasn't like it was just a buildup of like, oh, he missed a throw. Oh, he's getting down. It was like he's playing great. Now he's playing crazy. Like, the first pick that he threw I was like, what are you doing? You don't need just throw the ball away or take the 2 or 3 yards on the ground, slide, get up and live another play. He did it on the last drive. He took the 5 yards on third down, ran out of bounds, lived to play the fourth down. I don't get how it flips just on its head like that. And again,
so what needs to change? What needs to change on the offense, guys?
I mean,
I think it's pretty clear.
I think it's just game management. I don't think it's the players. I think we have great players.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of execution errors.
Yeah, and
you can put people in the right positions, right? And Timmy's a perfect example.
Yeah,
you put him in the right position, and then he goofs it up. Or you've got RJ Harvey, who's a great back, like not taking anything away from him. Last year, he kind of got benched because he had fumbleitis. This year, he goes back and it's a huge play in the game. It's the second time this year he's done that.
Yeah.
Right.
That
so,
too, or was it Boise? One of them.
Boise.
Yeah.
But
like you're saying, but see, to me, it's just, it wasn't like these fumbles happened and it cost us the game. Like we saw, you guys were talking about it in the group message. We saw Timmy kind of going off the rails after the first 1 or 2 drives after the third quarter, in the third quarter. So to me, it's like, why are you guys not reeling them in? Why are you not reeling them in? Okay, he's going a little crazy. Yeah, we're still up, 4 touchdowns. It's not the point. We need you to play consistent for 4 quarters because, at least my mindset, when you get to these Oklahoma games, when you get to Kansas next week, you can't have these slip-ups. You got to be focused for 4 quarters. Now, granted, we need to.
I don't know. Dylan Gabriel makes some mental faux pas. You get him behind, and he kind of falls apart too.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, it's about being consistent. You can't be so hot and cold with your play, especially at quarterback. And I think, again, is it on the players, Roger? I completely agree because we're the ones out there playing. The coaches aren't playing. The coaches can put us in the right position to do it. We have to execute it. So there is an execution issue that needs to be cleaned up. However, I think the part of coaching that I don't see happening is the game management, the player management. You cannot let your players go off the rails like that and then expect them to just save you at the end. You cannot have your players going out there losing their mind, the mental side of it. That's a part of coaching, is reeling your players, because you don't talk to everybody the same. Like you just said, Timmy might not do well with, getting reamed playing, because that just adds more pressure to him. Some guys,
which is why he didn't play for George O'Leary.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things where you have to know your players. You have to know, does he do well with, getting reamed in the game, or does he need to be reamed post game? Does he need to be reamed in the, in the film room? Because guys they react differently. So I'm not blaming it solely on anybody. I think it's a little bit of both offensively. But I think those things can be avoided by coaching. I think that was even just how I used to see the game. If guys were kind of going off the rails, I'd be, listen, relax. We're up 28 points. We don't need you to be Superman right now. We just need to execute and let's get out of here with a win. That's what the leaders have to do.
But I think that's the key word too, though, is execution.
Yeah.
So the difference between us and K-State last week, right?
Yeah.
Was the execution that those players had. All of them were on point. Even when we got after them, even when we got on top of them, they maintained the execution.
Yep.
2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
Fourth quarter has been a bear dropping show.
Yeah.
For in execution. And so it's doing the little things right. It's not like these teams are, to me, all right, these teams are not head and shoulders above us.
Not even close.
Especially not Baylor. We should have whooped.
I'm going to be honest. We probably are the most talented in all 5 of our games. We've been the most talented team on the field. It's just when you don't execute, it doesn't matter.
Excluding linebackers.
Hey, yeah.
I'm trying to speak in like totality.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just adding an asterisk.
Yeah.
You know how I love asterisks.
Yeah. But I think, like you said, if you can't execute, I think we're starting to, like, this is what I've said before going into play. You don't have a lot of room for error as we did in the AAC. And that was a great conference. I played in that conference. But when you get to these bigger conferences, these coaches make adjustments quickly. Dave Aranda, when we lost our center, we'll get into what he was doing defensively. It was smart. He was sending sim pressures that looked like pressures, and Timmy thought he was getting blitzed, and he wasn't even getting blitzed. It was just 4-man rush just from different guys, which flustered him a little bit in his reads. That's another reason they had issues. He was just blitzing guys from different spots, dropping guys in different spots. But as a younger quarterback, you see linebackers running at you, you think they're blitzing. I need to get ready to run or throw the ball out quick. That's not what they were doing. But just in this conference, if Baylor's going to do this, like I said, Baylor, we talked about it last week. We thought we were going to beat this team by 30 points, 40
We
points.
should have.
I remember we
played 3 quarters of football.
In our text, I remember Roger, I think, because we all we lowballed what we do on offense. We probably should have put 50 points for our our predictions. Like, I agree, that's how we were looking initially. But again, coaching in this conference, these guys, they make adjustments, and
you said that the biggest difference for you when you went to the Big Ten was the coaching.
It's coaching. It's coaching and the play on the line. That's it. The skill players, no difference. Everybody's fast. Everybody can run, catch. That's why you're on scholarship.
Here's another thing. Ricky Barber, 15 snaps. When he was on the field, we were getting way more pressure.
Yep. And I don't know what's going on with him because I think he was out last week.
Yeah.
He's been out, and then he came back last week, but they had him on a snap count.
Yeah.
And
so,
then,
I mean, if he's on 15 snaps, he's probably still on a snap count.
Yeah.
So, but again, like I said, that's the difference. It's the coaching and the line play. And I think in both of these games, in crunch time, these teams are relying on those things, the coaching. They're relying on their O-line, D-line, hey, carry us. And we kind of get away from it, and I think that's kind of cost us a couple of these games. But yeah, I think, again, those are the two biggest differences going forward.
All right. Josh?
You're getting – this started off with what's going on with the offense. So
it's what needs to change on the offense.
What needs to change on the offense? JRP needs to not get hurt. I'll be blunt about it. There's a reason the coaches were harping on him to slide.
Well, answer that. Answer that. No. Answer that.
Yeah.
Are we 4-1 with JRP?
We should be undefeated. I'm gonna be honest. We probably should be undefeated. At worst, we're 4-1 with JRP.
Correct. 100%.
Not necessarily a knock on Timmy's play because he's overall played well. I think he's played well. I just think we don't get the bonehead plays from JRP because, again, he's experienced. He's battle tested.
He can create on his own. He can create on his own when the rest of the guys can't, when they key in on them.
And I think that's the thing.
We're probably 4-1 if Timmy was the number one quarterback this entire time and he got 1 reps the entire preseason and played in the first 3 games.
Yep.
I think that's part of it, but the coaches understood what we had. And what I'm seeing is there's a reason they said those things. There's a causation with what was happening now. And it's not on Timmy as a person or as a player. I think if he had all the number 1 reps, I think that's a little different.
He'd have a different.
But he lost the race to do that, and there's a reason for it. And another piece of this is the depth of teams seems to be, you've been in the Big 12 for a long time. You've had Big 12 funding for a long time. You've had the reputation for a long time.
Well, okay.
Not yet. We did play 2 great teams. Well, one team I think will be a solid top 25 team most of the year. And we're going to get to that depth point, but because you see the recruiting, it's going to happen. But we're losing too many people. We lost our starting quarterback, and our backup is good, but not the starting or that good, right? Like not JRP. Well, the centers go in and out, and we start having issues. Tight ends start coming out, and Pittman's a freshman. He's going to get there, but he's not there, right? 85 is also pretty darn good, but he's not Holler. He's not starting. Neither is Holler's brother. You can keep going deeper and deeper. The linebacker play, we already talked about it. We don't have the 2s and the 3s to make up for the 1s. And that is one of the pieces of the puzzles that is causing us to lose games. It is. It's not everything. And we're going to get there. But we also don't have the same conversation if we just don't give up 26 points in a fourth quarter, right? So that's why that's – and part of that's the difference. Part of it's the difference. So,
and again, like, it's very hard to be a backup thrusted into a starter's role at any position. I think it's even harder to do it at quarterback because, for example, I could have been thrusted as a freshman to play safety. You can kind of hide my strengths and weaknesses because the defense as a whole works. You can do that. At quarterback, when you're touching the ball every play, you have to know so much. You're orchestrating the offense. It's so much harder to kind of hide those issues because you're orchestrating it. You're going to see the issues because that's just the way the offense runs. You cannot in an ideal world, you don't want to change your offense completely from one quarterback to second, as you saw last year when JRP got hurt. We go to Mikey Keene, great quarterback, completely different scheme you're running. We had to throw more passing. You lose the element of the run game. So, like, that's an issue. And I think because Timmy he's a quarterback, I think the issues, again, not just his issues, but, some of the holes that maybe JRP's covering up, some of the things that maybe JRP covers up just as a leader. I think those things get glaringly, you can see it a lot more with Timmy just because he does play quarterback.
So I'll say this, though, to your point and what I was going to say earlier, Josh, K-State is full of 3 stars. They don't have 4 stars. So when we're talking about level of talent, it's not just the level of talent on the depth, because we've got depth in 3 stars. It's execution. So is that on the coaching, or is that?
Like I said, I think we're probably, again, if you're going off the stars and stuff, I think for 5 games, we've probably been the most talented team on the field for 5 games. And we're 3-2. Yeah. So it's got to be execution. It's not, we don't have enough talent.
Is that the coaching or the players?
I think it's both, because in the situation where you lose your starting quarterback, you have to amp up the coaching. I mean, I spoke to it. As a defense, when our first starting quarterback got hurt, we had to raise our level of play. We cannot stay the same, let alone get worse. That's what the defense is doing. And maybe, honestly, taking in these last 2 games, maybe the defense wasn't that good. We're just playing lower level of competition. And that's completely fine too. I think there's going to be some kind of realization again in this whole month. We're playing Kansas, then we go to Oklahoma. These 4 games are going to tell us a lot about where we are at versus the first 3, because we look different in both aspects. Yeah. But defensively, again, I think you're supposed to raise your level of play when you're starting quarterback gets hurt. I don't care who it is.
And I think that, I think the difference is that the coaching, opposing coaching, is taking advantage of that zone that we're playing. So that brings us to another question.
Yes.
Addison Williams, where do you think he is with respect to him as a defensive coordinator? I mean, how is his lack of experience and the adjustments that need to be made, is that demonstrating itself on the field? And Tre, this is really a question for you.
So when I go back and watch, I watch with my defensive brain. I think a lot of the things that we do, there's not enough disguise in what we do. I think we kind of just line up, get set, we're running this, this is what we're doing. Early on in the first 2-3 games, I did see more disguise. I saw more, we call it exoticness on defense, where it's just stuff you haven't seen. It looks funky, it looks crazy, it looks different. As we saw a lot of that, playing Villanova, playing Kent State, even a little bit against Boise. These last 2 games, it's been very vanilla. It's not necessarily confusing. It's not necessarily confusing the quarterback to give him different looks, to make him make reads. The quarterback is catching the ball. He knows where to go pre-snap. He knows where to go post-snap. There's nothing different. So I think that's what I see as glaring. And obviously the tackling. I don't know. I mean, I truthfully think we're just not playing physical football. On defense, you can miss tackles. I've said this all the time. You can miss tackles.
We missed 8 this game, by the way.
Yeah. Like, it happens. But you can't. And granted, you're going to get ran over. I think Damari, number 8, one of the Henderson twins, he got a lick laid on him, But that happens too. But when you're losing on the line of scrimmage, when you're getting drove back 4 or 5 yards off the ball, when you're always diving at ankles, and guys, they're going to break those tackles. That just is not, that's not physical football. When have we seen just somebody getting rocked? I haven't seen it. And I know that the game has changed a little bit, but I've played with a lot of physical safeties, even with these rules. I played with a lot of guys who would knock the snot out of your nose, and they do it cleanly. I don't see that part on defense, at least in the back end from my perspective, because that's what I watch a lot. I don't see that. And again, even defense, going back to what you were asking, Roger, our linebackers have they're free. They're playing, they're free balling out there. They're not.
All right. So here's On the missed tackles, 2 by Nakai Martinez, 2 by Damari Henderson, 1 by John Walker, 1 by Cam Moore, 1 by Quadric Bullard, who's just fallen off.
Yeah.
He's fallen off the map. And then 1 by Tremont Morris Brash, but I'm sorry, he more than made up for it this game. He played extremely well.
Really well. Yeah. I think, again, it's just, I don't know. Even the tackles that they're making, they're not driving people back. They're not striking the players. Yeah, I mean, Roger, you know how we were taught. Dislodge the ball from the
separate the player from the ball.
Yeah. Granted, you don't want to go in with your head down doing it, launching and, almost trying to kill yourself. No, you don't want to do that. But there is a way to be physical. And I just don't see that I haven't seen it the last 2 games. I thought, up front early, we were playing physical in the D-line trenches. I think now that we're kind of getting the Big 12, we're going against some boys that are pretty big. These are some big boys we're going against. Some of these Texas guys, these Kansas, they eat their Wheaties. They're not small dudes. And I think that it's kind of a shock. So when you lose that up front, we're already questionable in the back end. You can see it a lot more blatantly. So I think that's my issue. Like they're tackling, but the guys are falling forward for 2-3 more yards.
I agree with that.
That's a big issue to me. Even if you stalemate them, that's what you want. You're not going to win every battle, but when most of your tackles are around the ankles and they're falling 2 or 3 yards, those are what we call hidden yards. They might have got the tackle, but instead of 2nd and 8 when you tackle them, it's 2nd and 5 because he fell for 2 or 3 more yards.
The Bowser yards, the same thing we were getting the benefit of last year.
Yeah, so we're going to see that for the rest of our time. Every Big 12 team I know for a fact has that big bruiser. And again, I think defensively they're not playing sound. I mean, I said that last week. Their eyes are terrible.
You saw what they did. They took Baylor took out Green, who was the one who was carving us up as a running back. Mm-hmm. And what did they do? They put a freshman out there who's a tight end and put him in as the running back.
And just people.
Punished.
Yep, that's it. It's a that kind of style gets lost because of how much the rules have changed. But when you can assert your dominance like that, there's a lot of morality. There's a lot of ego in football. If I can run over players and just abuse you, we're going to run the ball down your throat and there's nothing you can do about it. That's demoralizing as defense because you start getting pissed off. That's what I'm seeing. They can't stop the run consistently. So guys are like, well, if we can't stop the run, I'm just going to go try to make a play. And they're not doing their job anymore. They're going to try to jump in the gap up. And then that's what the issue is. And a lot of it is guys are trying to, their eyes are terrible in the back end and the linebackers. I've watched it, from both views. I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know what they're keying, but they're getting faked on simple stuff that's easy to read. And up front, guys are trying to be superheroes when Baylor and Kansas State are just like, we're just going to run the ball. They're not playing gap sound. And I think that's also an issue too, that I don't know if that's being addressed in, Coach Addison, in his meetings, because if they're doing that, then guys need to be benched. That's how I've always played. I don't care how talented you are. If you're going to go out there and freelance, you can cost the entire defense because you want to try to make a play.
Well, the defense is set up to provide overlapping support. Yeah. If you're not playing your gaps, if you're not, playing your role and reading your keys, then what ends up happening? A big play. One missed tackle, something happens. Yeah. It's get someone to the ball and slow them down enough so you've got your team running to the ball.
Yeah,
exactly.
And again, that's one of my things. Like it when I played, if everybody does their job, technically we have everything covered. We're going to give something up, but in the run game, every defense in the run game, you have a gap to stop every run play possible if you follow your keys. When run plays hit, that means somebody's not following their key. I promise you. Or you have the one-offs where the guy just makes somebody miss in a phone booth, which we have a lot of those guys. That can happen too. But most of the time, we know every play, how to fit every play, how to stop every run play. So to me, I think it's a lot of guys just getting out of their gaps, not playing with sound eyes, and trying to freelance too much, which that's going to be the downfall of every defense. And then you compound that with, weak tackling and soft tackling. Yeah, you're going to give up 26 points in the fourth quarter. That's going to happen. And then in crunch time when you need to stop, you're not going to be able to do it because You haven't shown that you can do it. And like I said last week, Kansas State showed our front does not play sound defense. What does Baylor do? They do the same things. Now they do it a different style. It wasn't very, downhill until they put the tight end in. But they just exploited, hey, can you guys play sound defense? Obviously, we can't, because that's when those big plays start happening, and then they just.
So is that coaching or is that players?
I think it's both. I don't think because I'm not in the locker room. If I knew the scheme, I would know immediately. If I knew exactly what's being told in meetings, on the field, I would know immediately. I don't know exactly the scheme they're doing. I don't know that part specifically, but so that's why I say it's both. Because again, if you're allowing your guys to play freelance and allowing them to keep doing it, that's a coaching problem. But if there's not guys better, then that's also a player problem. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's I say it's 50-50.
Well, I mean, we have good players. They're solid. I mean, Lee Hunter had the front four.
They're very good. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's something to be said for understanding what your role is within a scheme.
Yep. That's the point of defense. If you cannot play collectively as a defense, you're never going to be on a good defense. And
all right.
Thing is, I know these guys have NFL aspirations. They're going to look at the film and say, what are you doing right here? Because coaches know. They see it, and they see if you're playing the wrong gap or not, because they're 1,000 times smarter than we are when it comes to scheme. They know it just watching. And these guys that have NFL aspirations, you can't go freelancing, because now you're costing people money. You're costing paychecks, and they're, so I think, like you said, Roger, I think it is a little bit guys just freelancing, and they're doing what they want.
All right, let's talk a little bit about JRP again. JRP was warming up on the sidelines. We heard this week that there's going to be a decision made on Wednesday. He was cleared last week, but he didn't get enough reps in. Do we think we should bring him back for the Kansas game? Do you bring back a slightly hobbled or not 100% JRP like we did last year? Or do you roll with Timmy against Kansas? What do you guys think?
I think it's pretty clear. If he can play, he's playing. And this is not, well, it depends. What allegedly there was a meeting of some high-level boosters that happened today too. So, I'll say allegedly, because I don't know that for a fact. And today is the day of recording, right? So early this week, allegedly there was a meeting of boosters. So if that is true, and he can go, I do think they're going to protect JRP if he can't, and they should, because that's the right thing to do. As much as we want to win every single week, protecting an athlete, protecting a student is way more important. But I do think he's going to be, it's whether he is good enough to do some of the things. If he's just a pocket passer, or maybe he can scramble once or two, he's going to be kind of like the last two quarterbacks we played, right? Who were coming back from injury or kind of sort of hobbled or not 100%.
He has the same injury that Chapin had.
Yeah, he played all right at the second half of that game. So all I'm saying is that I expect him to play. I do. Because I feel like if he was in, that's the first thing we texted. Like JRP is in the helmet and pads. It wasn't just no helmet and jersey, but there's nothing keeping up your shoulders. He was in pads. I don't, and I've seen a lot of things online about maybe he should have played that fourth quarter. I don't know about that, but unless there's something that is seriously prevents Gus and the team and making that decision, he's going to be playing. That's my guess, because he won the job. He's QB1. There's a reason for it. If we have any shot in Kansas, we've already shown we can't play 4 quarters of precision perfect football against anyone in the FBS level other than Kent State. And let's put that to the side, because we had JRP. If this was a 42-10 win in Baylor, might have a different decision. But I think we had the litmus test at K-State, and it wasn't bad, but That's why everyone thought we were going to win this last game, and we did almost everything we could to both win and lose it. So because of that,
no, we did everything we could to lose it because we lost.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We did everything we could to win, and that was good, but wasn't good enough because we did everything we could to lose too. So we did both. In my opinion, we did both. But anyway, yes, he is the quarterback, and he is playing in Kansas. That is my gut instinct. As long as it's not to detriment to his physical health. I don't know. You're warming up 7-on-7s. You're going to get all the stats for the first. You're going to get all the reps for the first 3, and then we go with Timmy. If he actually goes through all three practices, and he's the one for all 3 practices, unless something weird happens, he's going to be the quarterback. That's what I'm guessing. And well, yeah, we'll go for that later.
Okay.
Switch.
All right, you're making me. The people are gonna like start getting like epilepsy here from all the back and forth. Yeah, that's your song for this week. Whip my head back and forth.
No. I have a very
And it's
appropriate
hair,
song
not
this
head.
week.
Okay. Trey, what do you think? As a player, from a player's perspective, right? If you were JRP, would you go? And number 2, if you're a coach's perspective, would you have him go?
Player's perspective, it is. I'm going to tell you how I think he's thinking. If JRP thinks he has an NFL future, he might take it back a little bit. I think what he's shown from a little bit of last year and what he's shown this year, he's going to get a shot to play in the NFL. I don't know if it's going to be at quarterback. I don't know if it's going to be at, a Taysom Hill type of role where he's just a gadget guy. I don't know. But I think he's going to get a shot because he's probably the most athletic player on the team. He's shown that he's magical with the ball in his hands. He's shown that he can play multiple roles on a team and be a good team guy. So if he's thinking about that, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes his time coming back. Now, if he's thinking, this is my senior year of football, I don't know what I have going forward in my future. I feel about 75, 80%, 85%, I'm going to go. Then I think he's going to play. I think if he's at 85%, I think right now what he brings mentally and a little bit more advanced in the scheme and the system, I think that's better than Timmy. So I think at 85%, they're going to let him go. Now, he's been cleared. Cleared is such a crazy word to me because you can be cleared for what? You can be cleared to run. You might not be cleared to play. You can be cleared to do contact, but you might not be cleared to play, so.
No, Gus said he was clear to play.
Okay, so.
But didn't practice. He didn't practice. It was only 7-on-7. It wasn't full practice. I think that's why.
So to me, that's not cleared to play. If you can't, because they're not getting hit anyway, but if you're not even going to risk him getting hit in 11-on-11, because you're not getting hit in 7-on-7, period. There's no risk. And 11-on-11, offensive line can miss the block and they fall on you. So if he's not doing that, then that means he really wasn't going to play, period. So I think you're going to have to see. I think personally, if I were to flip a coin and guess, I think he's going to play because I think the season is turned a way that we weren't expecting. I think if we're 4-1 with the win against Baylor, you probably rest him one more game to get him fully healthy for the showdown in Oklahoma. But I think because, to be honest, if we don't play well again, we could go from being 3-0 to 3-4. Honest truth. Yeah. I don't think anybody predicted that to happen. I don't think anybody thought that would happen the way we started. So I think to kind of salvage the season, he might feel inclined to do it, to play. As a coach, again, like you said, Roger, you have to put the athletes first. I think if JRP doesn't look right, I think you go him through practice. You test him, physically what he's able to handle through practice. If he can't play, don't play him. You don't want to jeopardize his future, his career, or just, himself. You don't want to put himself in danger. That's what, as a coach, you're supposed to do is prevent that. You're the adult, quote unquote, adult in the room. You have to take care of those guys. So I think Gus is going to have to see them go through a, rigorous practice, a tough practice to prepare him, and then you can kind of rest them a little bit leading up. But yeah, I think it could go either way. I don't necessarily know because as JRP has mentioned, again, he's like I said, I don't know what he thinks about, his future playing. Is it if he thinks he's done after this, he's going to play baseball? Is he going to go try to play in the NFL? Who knows? I think all of that factors into how fast you want to come back, how fast you want to get on the field with your guys.
All right. So for me, I'm going to say this. JRP is the honey badger. He doesn't, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a flying hootenanny because we're a clean show.
Clean.
If we weren't a clean show, I would have said another word. But he doesn't care. He's shown that. He's got reckless abandon with his body. And, he came back in the fourth quarter of that game at Boise. He doesn't care. He's not that guy. He's the guy that wants to be on the field whenever he can, as much as possible. I don't think he's thinking about the NFL. I think he's thinking, this is my last chance to play football. Because if I am going to go pro, I don't think he's going to go NFL. I think he's going to go MLB. He's got the numbers last year that he got his numbers up, so he was a contender to get drafted. He loves baseball, and if he does well this season in baseball, I could see him getting drafted high enough for that to make sense for him. So I think from JRP's standpoint, he's the guy who doesn't think about it that way. I think he thinks about, hey, I'm missing on opportunities to get on the field, not for the NFL, but just because, hey, this is my last ride, right? Yeah. So I think he's thinking about that. I think he also thinks every QB's got to have, is like a fighter pilot, right? They gotta have a little bit of that. It's not going to happen to me syndrome, right? So I could see him also going out there and saying, hey, I want to do everything that I can for my team to make sure we're bringing up my team. And that's his argument. Now, whether he should be playing for us at Kansas is another question altogether. We don't know. He's still wearing the brace, right? I feel.
So what's officially? Sorry to interrupt. What's officially his injury that he has that they're telling us?
Strained ligaments in his knee.
In his knee.
Yeah, his knee.
So, question: do you think maybe he's not looking towards his NFL future? Could he possibly be looking towards his MLB future?
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, if he can't run, that's his money. JRP is a freak show athlete. I mean, he is faster than fast. I think he is one of the fastest guys I've seen live run at baseball games. I saw him play down here in Miami when they played UM. He has a jetpack on his back, is what I like to call. Could that possibly, not to play devil's advocate, could he possibly be thinking like, I'm not trying to get hurt and ruin my injury worse for baseball?
I don't think so. I don't think that even enters his mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's the guy that I want to go out there and I want to do everything that I can with my team, and they need to be rallied, and I'm that guy to do it. That's him.
Everything he puts out there in every public place screams that. Everything. It would be so disappointing if that wasn't the truth and it was for all show. And I don't know if it was for all show, he might have another career in Hollywood, because I just did nothing points to that. I agree he's probably thinking more MLB than NFL, but I agree with Roger. I think everything in that it seems to be what seems to be true is that if he thinks he can go and he shows he can go, he's going to go. I don't think he thinks that way. Unfortunately,
that's what I'm like. I agree. I think he is he's a guy that you want to, if you're going to war, that's a guy you want. But I know a lot of those guys, and again, I'm just speaking from life.
Those are the guys that get themselves shot too.
No, yeah. That's very true.
Hurt. We're talking about football.
I'm just speaking from.
Well, he's talking about war.
That's
you know
fair.
what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm talking about if I need a guy in my honey hole, who I want. Yeah.
Right.
But I'm just speaking from the sense of I see the conversations. I know a lot of guys who were, they'll die on the football field. But I also know the conversations, what their end goal is. They're not going to jeopardize anything for the end goal. I think so. That's where I have a little bit of reservation, because again, if he's, at least I knew my dream was to play in professional sports. If that's his dream, he's not going, I don't think he's going to jeopardize it. Now, do I think he could go out there and play at 85% and completely be fine? I do. I think
I don't think he can, because his 85% with a knee injury is his legs. I would rather sit him another week for the rest of the, to have him for the rest of the season. That's my thought on it, because you get a bye week after that, and then you get Oklahoma. That gives him a week to heal, and then also to prep and get back into the rhythm of things.
So then I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that we had a bye before Oklahoma.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Well, that changes a lot, though. I'm not gonna lie, that changes a lot.
So to me, the bye before Oklahoma means that if he's close, well, there's two ways you can think of it. If he's close, let's see how close, and then you have time to maybe rest up and do more rehab to get even better for Oklahoma. And if we win that Baylor game,
oh, he's definitely not playing. 100%.
Correct. So, it's an interesting dynamic. I still think he's going to play, because if we go in there and somehow win, lots of things happen. Boosters less than happy. Fans go, oh, okay, so maybe this was just not Timmy itself, but maybe.
Right, so this booster meeting you keep referencing, what's the scuttlebutt on that? Because I've heard some things, but I'm going to let you.
All I know is allegedly something happened, and it's. Here's the thing. I don't know anything inside. I don't donate that much. I donate as much as I can. and honestly, I talked to SJ this weekend, because I am full-time faculty. So I'm actually not allowed to do certain things, which makes no sense, but that's a whole nother story. So you might know from the sidelines more than I do. I just overheard that happen. And listen, at the end of the day, boosters aren't happy, and no one's happy after that game. Students aren't happy,
including the players.
Players aren't happy. Coaches, no one's. You know who's happy? Baylor and Baylor fans. Only ones are happy. Cannot believe what they just saw. And amazingly, they beat an FBS team, even though they were down by.
They made a shirt. They made a shirt. The Miracle at the Magic Kingdom.
I mean, that's not 20 miles away, but still, it was. I mean, it was like the pit doing
Pit special.
The Pit special, right? It was a miracle. Like, again, I don't think Baylor fans will probably ever see a comeback like that in their lifetime, and vice versa, right? So anyway, this Kansas game, I think he plays because he's going to be already enough, and if that all gets to a positive outcome, or even we know what we have with JRP, you have another week to figure out what the heck's going on, and then you have Oklahoma, which I haven't talked about on here, but I feel like we have had plans for Oklahoma for a while, and might even have special packages on both sides of the ball for that, but now that kind of all goes, I don't want to say all away, but I think it's a little different now, because we dropped one, whatever. But so anyway, that to me, the bye makes a difference, because you could do either way. Just see what happens in Kansas and then be prepared for Oklahoma, or try to see what you really have. And then if it works well, then you have that extra week to heal up everyone, maybe figure out who's actually healthy and has a week or so of actual practice being healthy, and then go full bore at Oklahoma.
Yeah. All right. So this brings us to our next segment. Tre's kind of been yelling at Clouds already, but we're gonna let him yell at Clouds again. Tre, I know you said this was going to be a short one, and I think it was a one word response. It was a 4-letter word, but we're gonna let you wax poetic here for a minute.
Yeah. Again, it's not really yelling. Last week I was I was heated. I wouldn't say I was angry yet. But
did we lose Tre?
He's so much yelling at a cloud.
Hold on, we got to take a picture of this.
Oh, come on, you got it.
You hear me?
Oh, man. You freeze at the worst times, dude, with the weirdest faces. It was like...
And if it was a yell at cloud face, it would have been perfect, and we could just swipe that in. But no,
yeah, that would be like the Tre's yell at cloud like segment that we pull for a YouTube short, and that's the thumbnail.
Yeah,
it was like.
But
go ahead, man.
We're back.
So I'm not really mad this week. I was heated last week. I'm more so disappointed. Things that we talked about that I thought the defense needed to fix, they legitimately didn't fix them. Granted, they made more plays. They had the touchdown. They came out hot, but defensively, again, if you can't play disciplined football on defense, you're going to lose football games. If you can't tackle on defense, you're going to lose football games. You can't get off the field on third down. You can't make stops in the red zone. You're going to lose football games. It doesn't matter anything else because most of defense is just it's mental. Seeing what you see, go run and hit and knock somebody's snot off and go make plays on the ball. I think we're doing one of those things, trying to make plays on the ball. I think that's what we're trying to do.
That's definitely changed from last year.
Yeah, I mean, night and day different. I would definitely give the DBs credit there. They're turning around. They're trying to get picks. They're making PBUs. They're looking to go make plays.
Not just them though. Even the linebackers and everybody. They're trying to punch the ball out and doing that kind of stuff too.
They're ball aware. That's what we call it. That's what we didn't have last year. They're very ball aware, but their eye discipline is abysmal. Their tackling is abysmal. And I think that's what's disappointing, at least this week, because once again, this is a game we should have won. And we have the debate in our chat, Roger, of whose fault is it? Is it the offense's fault or is it the defense's fault? I think it's both. To preface, I always speak from a defensive side. If you're up by 28 points, you can't blow a 28-point lead. I don't care unless the offense has 4 or 5 fumble returns for touchdowns or pick sixes, then you lose that game. But we didn't get the stops we needed to get stops. We didn't tackle when we needed to tackle. We didn't, get off the field to win the game because guess what? The offense wasn't going to win the game for us, obviously. They were having their own issues. So you got to go win it as a defense. And that's what I didn't see. So that's why I always say, I said that 2016 again, when we played Houston, we were up 24-3 against that. That was the college football playoff Houston with Ed Oliver and Greg Ward that beat Florida State and all them. We were up 24-3 with them in the third quarter and we lost the game. And I remember guys were like, it's the offense didn't give us anything. I'm like, you guys, our offense hasn't given us anything all year. Our offense is being ran by 3 freshmen with Mackenzie Milton and a young head coach and Adrian Killins at running back. Like, we're the old group. We're the top 10 defense in a lot of the statistical categories. We got to close out the game. And I think that's how you have to attack it as a defender. I mentioned it earlier. The quarterback, this is our backup quarterback. He's good, but we got to raise our level. If these guys can't raise their level, but you can't get worse.
You got to raise your level for 4 quarters.
Yeah, and they again, I'm not going to knock them. They played well for, like you said, 3 quarters, but
really well.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, who cares? You can play perfect and still lose a game because the one moment of lapse or the one period of lapse can cost everything. That's the beauty of football, though. I think that's the great thing because as a Baylor fan, they can play terrible for 3 quarters, play great for a fourth, and skedaddle out of Orlando with a win. That like I've been on both sides of that, so I think that's the beauty of it. But when you're so talented, man.
I don't even think it was Baylor playing well. I think it was us playing poorly.
Oh yeah, I think we lost the game. We lost the game more than they wanted, but they also had to execute to win. Like if we both play poorly, we blow them out. I think that's the thing. And again, I wouldn't be complaining about it if we weren't a talented team because again, like I mentioned, when that 0-12 year, we were talented guys, but we weren't on the page at any point of the season, just as a coaches, players, everything. So it wasn't that disappointing. There's been so much excitement going into this game. There's so much excitement, going into this season with everything surrounding it. The expectations set. Are we happy? Are we mad? And I think, again, you had all the alumni from one of the greatest teams ever come back to watch. You have I saw Brandon Helwig say we have like 40 4-star recruits, big-time recruits at the game. And I went and looked, and there's some good look, like not good looking, but like physical guys that look good.
Is this turning into a war chant? Is that what's happening right now?
No.
Take your shirt off and I'll evaluate how good you are.
Yeah, but I follow that. He tweeted like there were so many prospects on hand to watch, and I think those are the games you can't let slip away from, not just obviously wins and losses, but from program trajectory. We've seen it with USF, how you can be at the high of high and
We
be
don't
great.
say that word here.
Sorry, the cows. You can be high of high and trajectory send you. I mean, look at them now, and I'm not saying that
by the way, the
not
Cows have won 2 games in a row.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's how we should look at it. I'm just saying that in the things that you can control, you want to execute everything you can control. So yeah, I'm more so disappointed in what's going on with how we keep collapsing in the times we need. So that's more so my yells at the cloud. I'm not necessarily yelling. I'm just disappointed.
So real quickly, and I'm saying that because we could wax poetic on this. Are we panicked about the rest of the season?
A little bit. I'm gonna be honest. I am a little bit.
All right, 1 to 10. What's your panic scale?
A 7.
Wow, that's more than a little bit. Josh Lazar, what do you think?
I'm not at Tre's level, and that's probably because I haven't played football professionally. I will say, am I panicked? No-ish. I'd say I'm more like a 4 or a 5. I mean, I expected 4 or 5, probably 4-ish games, I think was my preseason prediction of what we were going to lose. And usually there's a game like, how are we losing this game? Right. Yeah. And we had that. But it's interesting. It's just really, really interesting. And
1 to 10, Josh.
I said 5. I'll say 5. I'll go hedge 4.5. 5. I really think, but here's the thing. If there's a lot of ifs to that. And that's the part we didn't see at the beginning of the season. If we said JRP is going to be gone for like 3 or 4 games, I think all of us would have changed our predictions, right? Right. So and it's not just him. Like there's lots of little, but Barber, big piece. JRP, big piece. Not figuring out who was our center, big piece. 5 different O-lines, big piece. Linebackers, maybe we play a 407 defense being a big piece, right? How can we not do run fits right? Big piece. Like all of these things put together, and we're still 3-2. There is a bright side you can think of some of that, but yeah, I'm at about a 5. I think the first litmus test was Kansas State. I think the next litmus test is the next game with JRP at as good of a go as we can get, and see who else is back. I mean, Barber's back and JRP is back, and they're looking halfway decent. Howler isn't hobbled again, and he's back. And we just get run out of a stadium. I don't care if it's Kansas or Oklahoma State. We still haven't been run out of a stadium yet, win or loss.
Yeah.
Well, wait, we've run people out of stadiums, but we haven't. We're talking tight losses that could be not that much worse than what they were. Yeah, that's like if at that point we lose the locker room.
No, I said quickly, right, on this.
I did.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Also,
for 5 minutes now.
To preface my 7, it's not necessarily based on the outcome of the games. It's more so what I'm seeing week to week is not being corrected, and that's worrisome to me more so than us winning games, because I think a Baylor game we should have won. Kansas State was very winnable, but things aren't getting corrected that, issues I saw week 1 that I said, just week 1 jitters, knock some rust off from not doing it all year. You're getting back into the flow of it, just amped and excited. Well, I'm starting to see this week 4. I'm starting to see this week 5. That's a problem. We can't be missing tackles how we're missing tackles. We can't not those are things that's why I'm worried, because if it's not getting fixed in a month, why would it get fixed now and not, maybe it does after the bye week and I'm overreacting. Yeah. I hope I am. But as of now, and especially I've talked with some of the, some former guys that were, they pay more attention to the player dynamic on the sideline. They were like, this is not sustainable. I don't know what's going on. It just doesn't look right.
All right. So for me, I'm going to try to be succinct with this. I'm at a solid 5. And the reason I say I'm at a solid 5, it's not necessarily how we perform at Kansas. I want to see how much fight we have in us at Kansas, right? So if I start seeing a weak-minded team at Kansas, win or lose, we start thinking, and especially if we lose, if they fall apart again, which is what I'm seeing in fourth quarters, then this is going to be a long, 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 long season. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out how to overcome adversity. Everybody talks about it, blah, 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 whatever. There's something there that I feel like once stuff goes sideways, we definitely see it with Timmy, but I see it on the defense a lot too, is it snowballs on them. So that's the mental game. They have the physical ability to do what they need to do. But this week is going to be, quote unquote, the litmus test for me for the mental fortitude of this team, as that's going to carry them forward going forward. When they're up, right? But as soon as they get tested and that adversity comes in, they fold like a house of cards, or they have. And now you're seeing people like, and I'm not trying to call anybody out because I think Baker was taken out of context. But you got Baker chirping about the fans, right? And then Kobe Hudson's chirping back at him. That's on Twitter.
Oh, what did Kobe Hudson say? I hadn't seen that.
He basically said that it was very, very short, but basically said, it's not the fans, right? So, when
of course not.
When you've got your two leading wide receivers out there chirping on Twitter, that's not a good thing, And I think Baker tried to put some context around it, but still, it's like that's locker room stuff.
That's the last thing you need to be worried about.
Well, it's not even that. It's just if you're boiling that over into the Twitter sphere, right? And you guys are chirping at each other, and Kobe deleted it. But if you're chirping at each other, that's not a good sign for what the mental.
I agree. The state around the team.
Exactly, and that's more of what I'm concerned about. Anything for the rest of the season. All right. So Josh, normally we would go to Alan's oxymoronic fun facts or stats of the week, but ironically, Alan's not here, so we can't have that. So we're going to go straight in, and I hope you're ready to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. So Josh, without further ado, take it away.
I'm never going to make this funny. I don't know. Okay.
Well, that makes it even more funny if it's never funny.
Yeah, that'll be the running joke. This is funny. Okay, so this is an easy one. Going to be succinct this time. What former UCF defensive coach is a current defensive coach for Kansas? No looking it up on your phones. I'll give you the first hint. Second hint's pretty easy. First hint. This defensive coach worked with GOL on the Vikings and helped us secure our first bowl win.
So he coached at UCF?
Coached at UCF and is currently coaching right now at Kansas.
Summers?
No. Good
What's
thought.
What year did he coach at UCF?
He coached at UCF from 2007 to 2011.
That's before my time.
Yeah, it was before your time. Otherwise, I would have said, "But Coach Tre." No, before your time.
What's the second hint?
Yeah, what's the second hint?
Second hint. It rhymes with him Taganos.
Him Taganos?
Over my head. Tim Haganos. I don't know.
Hagada.
Him Panagos.
Paganos.
Paganos. Thank you.
Okay,
Paganos.
That's why I was like, what?
Yeah, that's my.
Paganos.
Listen, I looked at the media guide, Kansas media guide. You need to go and put your names in the hyphens. I looked that part of it up. But yeah, Jim from Brooklyn, where Brooklyn at. He actually was with O'Leary and the Vikings, and shortly after O'Leary started at UCF, a couple years later, he came up to our D-line. He's been at Rutgers, Pitt, Temple, Minnesota again for DL defensive line. He's the defensive tackle coach at Kansas. They actually have a coach that is defensive tackles. And I believe there's a defensive ends and special teams coordinator, a defensive tackles coach as well. So that's a little bit separated. So that was kind of interesting. I thought that was a fun fact.
Thank you for that. You're sometimes funny fact of the week. So see, again, it was funny because you totally got his name wrong and confused us.
I should say that this way too.
It rhymes with Haagen-Dazs.
His name rhymes with him and Haagen-Dazs. Wikipedia doesn't have a pronunciation. The media guy doesn't have a pronunciation. I did that level of research, but
all right. Well, moving on. Let's talk about the PFF grades this week. So this week, obviously, Alan isn't here, so I'm going to do my best in his stead. The team offensive grade this week was 69.7. So higher than it was at Kansas State, but lower than we were the rest of the season. So 69.7. Remember, a 70 is a really good score, and a 60, anything in the 60 range, is good, and anything above a 70 is great. So offensively, we did fairly decent. We just did it all in the first half. So offensive player grades this week. Who is Alan always asks this, so don't look at the notes. Who is the number one offensive rated player by PFF?
I'm going to guess Baker.
All right. Josh?
No one? I don't know. I should say Kobe if we want to be funny about it, but I don't want to be. The Richardson.
All right. So Baker is about 7 down. So not quite there. Remember, he had a drop this game too.
Yeah.
Remember how everybody was saying it was the quarterback? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Last season, all season, I was like, no. There's a lot of drops out there. Everybody said that. Anyway, not salty about that at all. When we're talking about overall best player grade, it was actually tight end and freshman Randy Pittman at 84.4, followed by Xavier Townsend, 32 snaps, a 74.3. He's playing well. We just got to figure out ways to get him the ball. Yeah. And then Johnny Richardson with a 71.1. The worst player in the PFF this week was actually wide receiver Kobe Hudson at 47.8. Again, he only got 2 targets. Below Stephen Martin, who also got 2 targets, or 2 plays at a 60. So everybody did pretty well. Bula Schmidt, 59.6. And I'm going to butcher this, so I'm sorry. Lokahi Paoli, 55.7, our right guard. And then Timmy McLean below him at 55.6. So remember that Beulah Schmidt replaced Caden Kittler at center as well in the second half. Offensive line grades, pass blocking. Number 1, Marcellus Marshall. It's interesting how he's gotten so much better once we switched out the center.
Right.
Does anybody notice that?
Right.
Yeah. 88.3. Lokahi on 88, also 88.3. Tylen Grable, 80.2. Beulah Schmidt, 78.6. Amari Kite, 78.2. And Caden Kittler, 78. So, for those of you that were talking about O-line, our pass blocking was pretty good, as evidenced by Timmy's ability to just sit back there for 20 minutes, cook his cupcake in the easy bake oven, and run the entire length of a football field before he throws a ball. So for run blocking, however, not as good. Number 1, Amari Kite, 62.2. Great to see him. That's the Alabama transfer we were all excited about. Marcellus Marshall, number 2, 61.3. Then Caden Kittler and Tylen Grable. Then Beulah Schmidt. And then lastly, Lokahi comes in at 47.6. So this week, we talk about Timmy McLean as well. His passing grade, what do you guys think it is?
I think Timmy?
Yeah, Timmy.
I'll say 70.
70 and 60. All right. It was 53.3 this week.
Boy.
When he was kept clean, he was 60. Under pressure, 42.6. Again, he does not do well with pressure as far as his decision-making is concerned. Not blitzed, 61.5. When blitzed, 50.7. 1 of 5 this week on the deep ball that everybody was talking about how great he is. And he's got a pretty ball. His decision-making isn't always the greatest. He had a lot of open receivers. He can hit receivers in stride. But he was just thrown into a lot of double coverage this week. 1 of 5 for 65 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. Medium range, 5 for 8, 103 yards, 1 TD, 83.1. Short yardage, 5 of 8 for 49 yards and a 31.9. So rushing grades, Johnny Richardson, 72.7. Xavier Townsend, 69.4. RJ, despite the fumble, 68.1. And Timmy, 64.9. Top wide receiver, as we said, was Randy Pittman, and Alex Holler was number 2. So nice. Interesting. Defensive grades, we graded out at a 75.5, which is actually pretty good by PFF standards. Higher than Boise State, higher than Kansas State. We just imploded. All right. Who do you think the top defensive grade went to?
Drop.
All right. So we got a drop. And what do we got for?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'd probably say drop too.
Okay. It was actually defensive tackle Lee Hunter with a 78.8, and then followed by cornerback Brandon Adams, 77.3, and a much maligned Corey Thornton, 74.7, comes in at number 3.
He had a pretty good game.
So it was defensive tackle, cornerback, safety, and then drop at 70.3, which is still a phenomenal number.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And another person I'm impressed with is Malachi Lawrence. The more he gets in there, the better he gets. So, I mean, the entire team was above a 60 with the exception of 6 people. And Sean Peterson brought up the rear at 41.7, and just above him, Walter Yates at 44.2. So, overall, again, I think if their points had been spread out over the entire game, we'd be looking at this differently. But I think since we were up so big and we just gave it up, I think this just, leaves us with a very bad taste in our mouths, as it should, because we should have won. All right. So that's it for the PFF ratings. Let's talk a little bit about the next game. And that next game is going to be the Rock Chalk Jayhawk Kansas Jayhawks. Now, Trey and I have a connection to the Jayhawks in the sense that our good buddy Andrew Fagley, who was on Nightline with us for many years, is a Kansas Jayhawk and played for Kansas. And TMO was actually an assistant at the time that he played at Kansas. So he's very familiar with them. Kansas has got a pretty good team this year. They are -2. So basically the line moved because they were -3, which is basically, when you look at it from that perspective, they always give the home team a touchdown or 3 points. Yep. So it was basically a 50-50. The line has moved to -2, which means UCF people were betting on Kansas, because I'm sure Kansas people are betting on their own people. So interesting, right? So the story of the game for this game, again, we've got quarterbacks in flux, right? So last game, Daniels was out. He's their premier quarterback. He's very good. He was the player of the year last year for the Big 12. and he's a dual threat. He's a true dual threat. And the first one we'll see this year. He's really, really good. Defensively, they're pretty solid as well. For some reason, the matchup predictor, ESPN's matchup predictor, has us as a 60.5% favorite for this game. If they play Bean, which Bean was actually their quarterback, and then Daniels took his position last year and played really, really well. Then he got hurt. Bean came back in, and Bean played last game. Bean is nowhere near as good as Daniels. He's more of a pocket passer, but he's very flaky. Could be very, very much so inaccurate. Their leading rusher has 65 carries for 439 yards and 5 TDs. That's Neal. Good running back. As far as the yards per attempt, obviously we lead in that category. Their leading receiver has 19 receptions and 251 yards. If we see Daniels, expect a lot of running attack, right? Yeah. Because those guys are going to run and Daniels will take off. As far as the numbers and the team stats are concerned, total yards, 545 for us, 422 for Kansas. Surprisingly enough, yards allowed is pretty close. It's 366 for UCF and 369 for Kansas. So statistically, we should be the better team. The question is going to be time of possession. The last 5, Kansas comes into this game 4-1. They played Missouri State, Illinois, Nevada, and BYU, and they won against BYU 38-27. They did take the L against Texas 40-14. Now, Texas is a really, really good defense. They were playing with Bean, the backup quarterback, for his first game this year. So, I don't know how much we can take away from that, but I will say that if Bean is playing, we have a much better shot of winning this game. So for me, let's talk about our keys to the game. So Josh Lazar, actually, no, Tre Neal, I'm going to start with you because Josh always brings up the rear. So go ahead, Tre. What are your keys for this game?
I think our keys will be, number 1, can we put together a full game? Not 3 quarters, not 3 quarters and a half, not a full game minus the last play. Nope, that's not good enough. We have to put together a full game. And I'm not asking for it to be perfect. I don't think it's going to be perfect. It's never perfect. It just has to be consistent across the board. I think if everybody's doing their job, I think that's the key. I don't think it's really much to it for us. I think if we could play a full game and put it together, we might be we're 4-1 at worst. I think we could be 5-0. So if we do that, I think we're going to beat Kansas. If we don't, if we have a lapse at any point where it just lasts the entire quarter, we might be in the dogfight. We might be we could be in a shootout. Then again, I think that's going to be, at least that's my biggest key. There's a lot more little things like tackling again, being disciplined. I think you have to be, put together a full game and execute. If we can do those 2 things, we should win this game.
And that's what happens when you put yourself either on mute or you go a little bit too long on break. So here's what I'm going to do.
Well, what I was trying to do was go back and pull the comments from our previous thing.
I already got
For some reason, the shorts came up, and for whatever reason, it was like some weird short that came up. So I don't know.
So I appreciate that. So a couple things. I have another fun fact. I'm doing it before the keys or before the prediction. You guys tell me what you want because it relates to this game, kind of. Now or later? You let me know.
What? Let's do the keys to the game because then we have to pick your poison score predictions.
I'll throw that down in predictions. So last week I pulled the Taylor Swift's version of my keys, and I wanted to. I said we need to shake it off. We did. Go where nowhere else is run. But but we kind of did, right? And it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And that's where I'm going to leave the next keys to the game, which will be my musical keys to the game. Get it? The problem has been us the entire year. Problem has been us as Boise. Problem has been us in Kansas State. Problem has been us in Baylor. So the musical keys to this week come from a very appropriate band called Kansas. Trey, do you know the band Kansas, or is this part of your? No, okay. So the keys to my game are
nobody knows Kansas but you, bro.
You are incorrect. 3 songs from Kansas that relate to what we need for the keys to the games. First,
hold on, Andrew Fagley might know it.
"Carry On My Wayward Son."
Well, I know that.
Of course you know that. You know Kansas. Yeah. So listen to this.
Yeah. Okay, I know that. I know this song. I don't know Kansas.
Yeah, I didn't even know that's a song.
So going back to last week, we're the problem, right? Listen to these lyrics. "Once I rose above the noise and confusion, just to get a glimpse beyond this illusion, I was soaring ever higher, but I flew too high." That's kind of what we're doing. We need to rise above. We need to get past that noise. We got to get past that confusion. We need to soar higher, but we need to knock out that last line and flew too high, because that is exactly what I feel happened last week. And we need to carry on and move forward and get beyond that noise. Now, another one you probably know, but you say you don't know Kansas, "Dust in the Wind."
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I knew that might have been a 1 for 2. "Dust in the Wind." Same as last week. Go where no one else has run, right? Same thing. We need to run the rock. The same reason that when the main George O'Leary ball that really killed Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl.
3 yards and a cloud of dust.
Correct. Dust in the wind. That we need to do. Now, this is way deep cut. You don't need. No one is going to know this. Another song from Kansas called "Miracles Out of Nowhere," and it kind of relates to what Trey was saying. We need to play 4 quarters. And we either are going to need a miracle out of nowhere or prevent a miracle out of nowhere. Because obviously miracles out of nowhere happened last week. And maybe we get some of that luck on our side if we even need it. So I really think we need to move beyond this noise. We need to run the ball. And we all kind of know that. And maybe somewhere out of nowhere, a miracle might happen this week.
All right. So for me, keys to the game are very simple. And it's predicated on who comes out at quarterback for Kansas. I'm going to say this. If it's Bean, we need to cover the middle of the field in our zone. Okay. If it's not Bean, then we need to get the edges, because he will use the edges, right? So defensively, I think that's the key to the game. For me, yes, we need to run the ball, but they have a stingy defense. They have good cornerbacks. So use the middle range of the field there as well on passing plays. And then lastly, run the ball. Like, establish a run game, own the time of possession.
Yeah.
And then pop some big plays to get down the field, and then own it the rest of the way. And I'll put this other key on here because I think coaching has affected the last 2 games as well. We don't need to be out-coached, and that's going to be difficult because Lance Leopold is a very, very, very good coach. He's been successful everywhere he's been. North Dakota State, all the way up. Buffalo, everywhere he's been very successful. So this team will be game planned for us. They will know what they're looking at, and we need to make sure we figure that out early and adjust. And defensively, what I'm going to be looking for from our coaching staff is Addison Williams. Y'all start getting burned. Are you going to adjust? So that's the keys for me for this game. All right. Moving on. Let's go ahead and do our pick your poison predictions. So last week, our predictions, Alan had UCF 34-23. Josh had UCF 34-24. Trey had UCF 38-13. And I had UCF 42-21. Now, if we're going by the first half, I totally blew this out of the water. I mean, come on. But sadly, we can't just go by the first half. So, Josh, who would you say the winner is this week? Because nobody really won.
I mean, I'm closest to the pin of if you will, but not. I think we will go. Even though this is 2 weeks in a row that I would be quote closest to the pin on a losing game. I don't think anyone wins. I think we only do these when we win. Otherwise, I would be like 2 or 3 in a row because I got Villanova right on almost on the head too. So I'll even take one for the team. I don't want to.
Wow, I mean, how much how much of self-adulation are we going to get during this podcast?
More.
Villanova.
I should be 3 in a row. I should be 3 in a row. But for the team, I think no one wins. We don't win. No one wins.
All right. So what's your poison for this week?
My poison for this week is thinking that what happened last week is the standard and not a once-in-a-lifetime fluke. I don't think any player on that team is probably going to see a comeback like that ever again. I don't. They could go into the NFL and you can say we're the Falcons or whatever, and this is Matt Ryan. I don't even know if it was that bad. Like, this was just every single thing going wrong, and we still had a shot to win when we got past it, right? It just, if that is standard, combined with the, like, we don't play 4 quarters, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem, period. So before I get to prediction, we're not
going to do your prediction yet.
Fine.
We'll do that after.
Fine, more poison. We want to hear more poison.
All right. Trey?
I think my poison would be kind of like what I think I have the same thing as you, Josh. I think for the 3rd week, we see the exact same thing unfold. I think that would be the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Because it not only would it be, bad football being played potentially, but there's no corrections. I think the best part about most of the seasons I've been a part of, there's always growth somewhere. There's always getting better. Over the course of the year, that's when you're supposed to start heat up. You never want to start out hot and flame out. You want to start out very solid and keep building. If we come out next week and the same problems that we saw week 1, that we saw again in week 4, that we're going to see again in week 6, that's an issue. And I think that's an issue everywhere. I think we're going to have to start looking at that team going into the bye week a little different. So that would be my poison, would be we look the same that we have looked the last 3 weeks.
If we do, then we're going to start looking at coaching staffs. I'll tell you that right now. And that's I can tell you from experience, that does affect the coaches when they start hearing rumblings, when they start having these booster meetings, when they start talking, and not only does it affect the coaches, it affects the players, because they're if you feel like you're getting fired, some guys are going to keep going hard. Some guys are going to be like, I have to find my next, I got to find my next meal. It's a dog eat dog world. So that could be the worst thing. I think that's the worst thing that happens. Like you said, Roger, we look the same outcome. We could choke a game away, and now we're starting to have rumblings about coaching changes. Yeah. For me, it's 4th quarter fallout, right? So if, I have high confidence that this team can play 3 quarters of football very competitively.
Yeah.
It's what they do in the 4th quarter. That's my poison. And my other poison, because I'm going to say 2 this week, is if we get down, what does this team fracture, right? What happens on the sidelines? Are we hanging heads? Are we, whatever happens? And I think a lot of that's going to be impacted by who's under center this week. So we'll see, because I think there's a belief in JRP, right, to keep fighting. And Timmy now having 2 weeks in a row where it's kind of fallen apart at the end and making some not so great decisions. Yeah. I don't think we've seen where JRP makes poor decisions and they lost because of that. I think we've seen that with Timmy, and unfortunately, if it's a third week and we're down, I'm concerned about that. All right, so for Alan in absentia, since he decided to skip out this week, I'm going to say his score prediction is 72-3 UCF.
Oh, nice,
So,
Nice, Alan. I love.
We're going Cumberland level. This
so
is
there
great.
we go. Yeah. So if you miss a week, we're gonna throw your average off. All right. So Josh, what do you think?
So before I give you my prediction, one other fun fact, because it kind of relates. What is the last Florida team to win in Lawrence? The last Florida team, and how long has it been?
But it wasn't the Gators, because they haven't played outside of the state of Florida since they just started doing that this year.
I don't think they've ever played together by the media guide, if I read it right.
All right,
only
so
been
in Lawrence,
5 teams.
Kansas, the state of Florida?
Only 2 Florida teams have won in Lawrence, Kansas. I'll give you that.
One of them is going to be FSU.
Yep.
And
I hope it's not the Cows.
Nope.
Miami?
Beat them, not in Lawrence. Miami. So FSU was the last team that beat Kansas in Lawrence.
Well,
how long ago?
Dude, we're coming up on 2 hours really quick.
Fine. 1984.
Like 4 minutes.
1984. Wow. The last Florida team to win in Lawrence, Kansas was 1984. The Cows did play them, I think, in 2006 or 7. I'm not going to go back. I don't care enough about them, but did lose. Although they Kansas lost in Tampa. But yeah, it's been almost 40 years.
All right. What's your prediction?
So, do I think we can do something no one else has done in the last 40 years? Yes. I think we're going to win 41-38. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Maybe less so with Bean, but I'm just going to, Bean might be in there and our defense makes him look like Caleb Williams. Who knows? But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. We know we can score. We can score on the road. We know Kansas can score. Texas is another beast right now. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring, tight game. I actually think the betting is probably solid. I think we win by 3.
All right. Trey, what do you think?
I'm going to say 28-24 UCF. But if Daniels plays, 38-34 UCF. I think it'll be a little bit more juice. I think if he doesn't play, then it'll be they'll try to slow it down, and it'll be a little bit more of a defensive game.
Interesting. That's a good observation on the slowing it down part. For me, we're going into Lawrence, Kansas. Tough place to play this year. They've actually got fans now. They didn't have them in the past.
That's not a basketball school anymore.
No, it's not, unfortunately. They picked like the last 2 years when we joined the conference to actually be good again, right? Who would have thought? I mean, Colorado gets Dion. These guys get Lance Leopold. So I don't know. I'm going to call it the Heartbreaker Bowl because we're going to break Andrew Fagley's heart. And I'm going to say UCF wins this game 38-32. So, Andrew, I know you're cheering for both teams, but I had to throw that in there anyway. So, let's move on. We're all going to go for a win. We've been wrong 2 weeks in a row, but who cares? Yeah. Next thing on the docket is listener love. So this is what I was trying to pull up on YouTube in the middle of the show, which should teach me to remember to pull that up before the show, which is what I usually do. So listener love for this week, we actually got 2 different comments this week. So thank you so much. Both of them from Pittsfield 29. His first comment was, loved what GOL, George O'Leary, said the other day when describing some of the better UCF defenses he had, and said, best tacklers tackle with their feet, not their arms. 100% true. Second one was Harvey's fumble hurt. Hope he has a great game versus Baylor. Yes, I think not having to substitute on offense is a huge advantage. Defense can't sub, and you really don't need to go fast. Just get to the line of scrimmage quickly. So, Pittsfield, thank you so much for listening and also for commenting. We, of course, hit him back or her back. What I will say is please stop talking about Harvey fumbling because clearly it's not helping.
It's your fault. It's your fault.
No. It's not.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's not their fault. But again, thank you guys so much for all of you. I'm seeing our follower numbers go up, our likes and subscribers. So on all the platforms. So we appreciate so much that you listen. We're always open for feedback. Please continue to like and subscribe and comment and follow and do all the things. And thank you for listening. So moving on, let's go ahead and get the Big 12 recap in. So this is Josh Lazar this week because Alan decided to take the day off. So Josh Lazar.
Absolutely. So we have a couple of different sports around UCF that are doing well. UCF men's soccer, they're number 3 in the nation. They defeated UK in
Whoa. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the Big 12 recap. So how did the Big 12 football teams do?
Oh, that was me.
Yeah, that was me.
Trey? Okay. Well, I listen. I see Alan just completely threw the show off. I actually went in and did a quick update on UCF Sports. So that's fine. All right, Trey, I'm sorry. I'm teeing it up for you. Big 12 recap.
No problem. We'll go through it quickly. BYU played Cincinnati, and they won a close one, 35-28.
That wasn't a close one for most of the game, and
they
put it together.
Yeah. Oklahoma beat Iowa State 50-20. And they have a big game against Texas this week, the Red River rivalry. West Virginia beat TCU 24-21. Texas Tech beat Houston 49-28. Houston is struggling mightily.
Yes.
Well, we don't have room to talk. So Texas.
We're not struggling like Houston, right?
No, so, agreed. But again,
we're not showing our bald spot yet. We're not showing our bald spot.
That's true. And then Texas beat Kansas, who we're going to be playing 40-14. So we will see if we can find any exploits in that. And our last two, Kansas State and Oklahoma State, were on a bye this past week, so they had no game. And then obviously Baylor played UCF. And
Baylor whooped UCF at the end in the fourth quarter only.
Yeah. We only lost one quarter.
We did.
But it was the last.
Legitimately. We only lost one quarter.
But it was the worst quarter to lose.
Yes.
Well, we just played the worst football of any quarter I've ever seen in UCF football history, and that includes your 2015 team.
And that's exactly. That's why I said it might be early. It might be the worst loss. I don't know.
Oh boy,
we were bad, but we were consistently bad.
Consistently.
Well, not only consistently bad, but at least you only lost by 1 point. Was it FIU or somebody like that?
Yeah, we only lost by 1.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like Baylor.
I was at that game too.
Oh, we were both at that game. We were one of the 75 fans that were in the stadium. Oh, and Andrew Fagley was the other one. All right, go ahead.
God, I was in the
12. Big 12 recap is now being replaced by the UCF Athletic Sports Update, which I usually do. So go ahead.
I maybe when we have a 2015 conversation, I'll talk about being in a box for that ECU game at home. Update on other UCF athletic sports. We had the UCF men's soccer team. They're at number 3. They defeated UK in a tight battle in Lexington. And their 2 UK goals were negated. So they're going to play Georgia Southern at home next week. Sorry, not this coming week, on October 7th. They're 5-1-2 on the season and doing kind of good. And only loss was to the number 1 team in the nation. So that's not bad. The UCF women's soccer team unfortunately lost 1-2 to Oklahoma State in Stillwater, but they followed that up because they stuck around in Oklahoma, defeating Oklahoma 2-1 in Norman. They're going to play Texas at home next. That game is the space game. That's on October 5th. at 5:30, and that's followed by another game at home, Baylor. And that's going to be at Sunday at 1 p.m. And that's a breast cancer awareness game. They are 8-3, and I think they're ranked 19 right now. That might fluctuate with the away games, but Oklahoma State is something like 12-2, 11-2. They're pretty darn good too.
Really
we had
good.
The women's volleyball team is ranked 28th. They're now 13-2. They defeated Oklahoma twice. First 3-0. Next day, that was on Thursday and Friday, defeated them 3-1, both at home. So they get the fun travel of going to Lubbock, Texas. Nothing wrong with Lubbock. It's just not close. They're going to play Texas Tech on October 4th for only one game at 7 p.m. There's also some golf and tennis coming up soon, but that's nothing, no recaps there yet.
We aren't there yet. So great read, Josh, especially that first one. We actually had 2 goals in UK at the UK game that were negated, that UK scored that were negated for that 1-0 win. So that was an interesting game for sure. But the non-revenue sports or the Olympic sports or whatever you want to call it, as usual, they are carrying their water when it comes to UCF in the Big 12 and the Sun Belt Conference, and doing really, really well. So although this show was fraught with technical difficulties, and I blame it all on Alan, and some interesting takes, I think by and large, I think we clutched the win from the jaws of defeat after the defeat, because this could have been a really, really, really bad show. I'm glad we had a couple of days off to kind of think about it, muse, and get back on track. So thank you guys for joining me this week. We should have Alan back next week for all of his fun stats. We did miss that this week. We're poking some fun, but we love Alan. Yes. I will probably see him on Thursday on our other show, UCF Business Talk Live, the more professional side of things. This is the one where we let our hair hang down a little bit and pop our collars. So another great week. Looking forward to the fact that we're still, no matter what happened, we're playing in the Big 12. And it's great to say things like, hey, we lost this game this week against Baylor, but we're playing Kansas next week, and then Oklahoma, and then West Virginia, and then, dude, we made it. So, again, tough game this week, but I'm excited that we're in the Big 12. And go Knights and
charge on, baby.
All right, good. We got it this week. Great job, guys.
Did we get the drop from Roger saying